What's up, everybody? Today, I wanted to talk about the guitar tone on Ride the Lightning. Have you ever wondered how close you can get to this guitar tone with just an amp sim? What if I told you I found 4 different ways to capture this iconic sound without blowing your budget?
No one cares.
Got him!
Stick around to see which one comes the closest. We all know that matching that Metallica guitar sound isn't easy, especially when the exact gear is a mystery. From free amp sims to high-end options, I want to break down every step for you, showing you how I piece together each tone that's not 100% exact, but pretty close. In this video, I'll take you through my journey on how I created my Ride the Lightning guitar tone, starting with the free amp and working our way up to the HX Stomp. What surprises did I uncover along the way? And can an amp sim really get you close to the original? Let's find out. The guitar sound in Ride the Lightning is one of Metallica's most distinct, and a big reason for that is the amp choice. This was the last album for a while where Metallica used Marshall amps, but not just any Marshall. On Kill 'Em All, James used his Jose modded Marshall, but it was stolen about a month before they went into the studio for Ride the Lightning. So what Fleming had to do is he had to scour all of Denmark to find enough suitable Marshalls for them to try out in the studio. So that when James got there, they tried out the amps, and he picked one that was suitable. But because we don't have detailed notes like we do for Master of Puppets and Injustice for All, we don't know exactly which Marshall it was. Everyone's best guess is that it was a Marshall JCM 800, but could have also been a Marshall Plexi. But this makes nailing the exact tone a little challenging. Then, after this album, Metallica landed a Mesa Boogie endorsement, which meant that they switched to using the Mark IIc Pluses on everything, all the way up until Death Magnetic, where they would go back to using Marshall amps. And the Mesa Boogie gave them that signature mid-scooped sound that everybody knows it for. Along with the Marshall amp, James played his Electra Flying V, which may or may not have had Seymour Duncan invaders at the time. They definitely ran through Marshall cabs, possibly loaded with G1265 or G1275 speakers. To tighten up the tone, they hit the front end of the amp with an Ibanez Tube Screamer. All of this makes Ride the Lightning a tough tone to replicate. We don't know the amps, we don't know the cabs, and we don't know what Fleming did in the mix. But that doesn't mean we can't get close, and that's what I aim to do. I want to give you my version of the Ride the Lightning tone. With modern technology, the fastest way to do this would be with tone-matched IRs. My good friend over at Tone Deck has a lot of amazing ones that I've used before, but I like piecing together the puzzle myself. For this tone, we need to keep in mind that Marshalls have a really nice mid-focus crunch to it that sit really well in the mix. But with Metallica, even on this album, they had like a more of a mid-scoop sound, try to push some more of that low end, but the album still has a lot of clarity with it. So they scooped back some of those higher mids and high frequencies to get a really ice-picky sound here. There's also a bit of room sound on this album that we have to take into account as well. While we don't have every detail, we have a solid approximation. For cabs, I found that blending a G1275 with a V30 gets me really close. I actually made a free Ride the Lightning tone video a while back that I was proud of, but like with Puppets and Justice, I wanted to revisit it and show you 4 modern ways to nail this tone, starting with the free amp sim, the Hybrit, and working our way up to the HX Stomp. So now let's get into our first tone. First up, we have the Hybrit, a free amp sim that blends the elements of the Plexi and the JCM 800. It's the most stripped down option here, but it still sounds great with the right tweaks. For every tone, I'm using the TSE 808, a solid free tube screamer that does the job. I've also got an EQ in the front to shade the tone before it hits the amp. Here are my amp settings. For the cabs, I'm using the same IRs across all tones, loaded with NAT IR, except for the HX Stomp, which handles everything internally. I'm blending a Celestian G1275 and a Marshall V30, a combo that adds the right amount of punch and low end for the Metallica feel. Each IR gets a high and low pass, plus a bit of room sound for ambience. At the end of the chain, I apply a final EQ to clean things up and remove the whistle tone at 4.5K. Like in my other videos, I'm not chasing 100% accuracy, just dialing a solid, usable tone without over EQing. So this is what the Hybrid sounds like. So, how does it sound? Honestly, I really like this tone. If the Nembrini is the closest to a Marshall JCM 800 tone, then I think this one's a close second. But hey, I'm no Marshall expert. I don't know every nuance that goes into listening for a true replication of a Marshall tone. But in my mind, this is pretty solid. I really enjoy that this one is a free amp, and it's also very simple to use. So if you're looking for the most affordable option, I think this one's for you. Although it does take a little more tweaking than the other ones, so it needs a little more TLC to get it going. Now that we've seen what a free amp can do, let's step up to something a bit more refined. Hey, I'm gonna take a quick second to say, if you like what I'm making, please subscribe, please comment, please like the videos, and if you want to see more behind the scenes content, I have a YouTube membership and a Patreon, which both have the same kind of membership deals, but on Patreon, I have guitar tones that you'll be able to get if you get the highest tier. The YouTube membership has the same tiers, just without guitar tones. So if you like what I do, you like my content, and you want to support me, I have a YouTube membership, Patreon, and I have Buy Me a Coffee where you can just send me a quick donation. Now back to the video. Next up, we've got the Britone from Audio Assault. This one mimics the JCM 900, which has a bit more bite compared to the tamer JCM 800. What's nice about this amp sim is that it comes with a lot of features, especially considering its price. It's normally $30, but you can often snag it for $5. As with the Hybrit, I'm using the same EQs, NAD-IR, and distortion pedal. But since the amp has a different character, I had to tweak the settings a bit. Here's what I landed on. One thing I really like about this amp is it has a very aggressive tone to it. But it's also important to remember that Ride the Lightning didn't have a very overly aggressive, distorted tone, and I find myself forgetting that a lot of the times. So I have to remind myself to keep things a little more balanced. This is what the Britone sounds like. Now, one pain in the ass with this amp sim is its interaction with NAD-IR. For whatever reason, when I bypass the cab section in Audio Assault, it brings the levels like all the way down, and I have to like volume match it with the other ones to make it sound not as quiet, and it's just a little bit of a pain in the ass. You could use the speakers that are already built into the amp sim, but I wanted to make sure I kept everything even across the board. This tone to me feels like more of like a modern take on the Ride the Lightning tone because of all the gain that it has. Alright, now let's move to the high-end range to see if spending more money gets you closer to the Ride the Lightning tone. Next up, we've got the Nembrini MRH 810. At $100, it's the second most expensive on the list, but Nembrini runs frequent sales, so you can usually grab it for less. This is easily the most high-fidelity Marshall amp sim that I have. It comes packed with everything that you need to nail different tones. If you missed the EQ and NAD-IR settings earlier, here they are again, along with my amp settings for this one. This is what the Nembrini sounds like. Tone-wise, this one's really hard to beat. A well-made amp sim just delivers. And while it's got a lot in common with the Hybrit, it's obviously a little more high fidelity because of the price point, so you're able to get a better sounding tone. And it's less aggressive than the Britone, making it more suitable for the album. The Nembrini gave us that raw Marshall bite. What about something a little more flexible? Let's see what the HX Stomp can do. Finally, we've got the HX Stomp, sitting at around $500, $600. It's my favorite piece of gear outside my guitars, but also the most frustrating. Dialing it in can be a challenge, but I've been getting better at it. And I think I finally found my solution. For too long, I've been chasing every little detail of the Metallica signal chain. This time, however, I took a different approach. Instead of using one of the Marshalls that's already loaded in on the HX Stomp, I'm using the Britone this time, because it's probably the best amp sim on the HX Stomp, and it's the highest fidelity sounding. So all it took this time was a little bit more adjusting than trying to make the Marshalls sound more aggressive. And if you're interested in this tone, it'll be available on my Patreon store. This is what the HX Stomp sounds like. I think I've really captured the Ride Lightning vibe here, but with a more modern edge. Compared to the Nembrini, they both bring a really nice high-fidelity clarity, but the Britone brings a sharper high-end crunch. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. And now we're going to go to a full playthrough where I showcase all 4 tones back to back. For this last one, I wanted to quickly test a clean sound, mostly because of a nice comment that gave me the push to revisit this tone. I'm using the Hybrit here to find a solid free option for clean tones, though Metallica didn't use a Marshall for their cleans, as far as I know. From what we know, some parts were played on acoustic guitars, but we don't know how they capture their clean sound on their electric guitars. They've been famous for using the Roland JC120, but I don't know if they used it here or not. But like with the distorted tones, I'm not aiming for 100% accuracy, I just want something that's suitable for the album. Here's what I used, including all the settings and that IR setup. Let's see how it stacks up. I'm really happy with the tones that I got for this one. This is the first one I'm completely satisfied with. If I had to pick a favorite, it'd be the Britone. It has a surprisingly aggressive character that meshed even better than I expected. I also really like the HX Stomp, but I think it would have translated better in a live setting with a real cab rather than being reamped with IRs, which is how I recorded it. The HX Stomp has a modern twist on the classic tone, a little more gain but still true to the vibe, while the Nembrini is just consistently solid, with high fidelity that makes it worth every penny. The Hybrit, I think, really mimics the old school Marshall sound pretty well, and the Britone's a little more aggressive, giving it a little bit of a more modern edge, but I think it's a little bit harder to tame because of all the bells and whistles that are on the front end of the amp. Nailing an exact album tone is challenging. Even with Flemming Rasmussen's notes on Master of Puppets and Injustice for All, there's a lot of guesswork, and we don't even have the notes for this guitar tone. Some people use tone matching IRs like the ones from Tone Deck, but recreating a full album tone with amp sims and IRs is even trickier. We don't know which Marshall amps or speakers were used in this album, and that makes a world of difference. That said, I truly love the process, and I'm trying to get better and better results that are more satisfying for me, and hopefully more satisfying for you. So hopefully you liked my spin on this classic tone. Let me know down in the comments which tone you think came the closest. And also let me know if you have any suggestions or techniques that I should use next time. Also, would you like to see this kind of video again, maybe for another Metallica album, or another thrash band, or another death metal band? Alright, so I've been running a few polls on YouTube to see what kind of content you guys want more of, and I really appreciate everyone who's voted so far. But now, I want to put everything together in one big, comprehensive poll to make sure I'm heading in the right direction. It's a quick Google form, no personal info required, just a few questions to help shape the future of the channel. So if you voted in the previous polls, I'd love for you to take a minute, fill this one out too. The link's in the description. Thank you guys for your input. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, thank you for all your support, and if you enjoyed this video, I think you should check this one out right here. Last year, I revisited my Master of Puppets tone, and I'm really happy with the results on that one. So if you enjoyed this one, I think you'll enjoy that one. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace!